Well, howdy, friends. Hello and welcome. I'm gonna try and figure out how this story's gonna go today. I'm not entirely sure how I want to do that yet, but we'll find out. Probably something like that, I guess. Actually, I should probably do it this way. There we go. I think the middle was somewhere around there. Maybe a little higher. Something like that. So how do I want this to go? Turnip, hello. How's it going? Oh, that's great. I hope all of your stressful things stop being so stressful. This probably needs to be a little more kind of like this. I think he's a little more bent over. This arm might be a little too long that way, so it needs to come up further, I think. Probably like that. No, I think I gave him drawstrings for his shorts. A detail that I'm sure I will regret later. That's probably fine. This needs to come over a little. And this probably needs to go like there. I'm gonna cheat slightly. Unfortunately, for the sake of the stream, this is a fairly dialogue-heavy moment. So what I'm going to be doing now is just really trying to figure out how to make a lot of text look not very boring. So that needs to be a little like that, I think. This will probably end up being a lot better, a lot bigger. I guess my tip for the day, for anybody who's out there maybe thinking of doing comics, is whenever you're sketching, always remember to sketch where your word bubbles are going to go, because if you don't, you're going to regret it later when you fill out your composition and you're like, okay, where am I supposed to put the words? And I'm gonna cheat again, because not a lot of change happens between these panels. This bow's probably going to change position slightly. Whoops, I thought I had this. There's going to be a lot of like overlap between these panels as far as like what I'm able to use once I get to the drawing stage, or the line art stage, I guess. Actually, I can probably flatten all these, huh? Just turn them all the way down at once. What am I doing? This thing. But yeah, one of my goals for this has been to just kind of keep everything a little loose and fast. So I'm cutting corners where I can, because drawing a page of a comic every day is a lot of work. So far I've been just kind of doing very easy pages and compositions, but the folks that like do this, like actually, I don't know how y'all do it. It's so wild to me. Unless it's like your job or whatever, and you have like a whole day of just 8 hours of comics, I guess. Oh. But yeah, the actual like figuring things out portion of this is gonna be. Wait, how does his thingy look? Gotta Google this again. Oh, it's like one thing separated by a belt. Okay. What was I talking about? Oh, the actual like sketch portion of this is more for just like layout for me. So I'm gonna be figuring out a lot of things when I get to like the part I'm on right now, which is the part that's usually like when the lines happen. But I'm trying to keep it very loose and vague. Oh wait, I can't do that yet. I need to do this thing. That's actually probably not where I want that to be. Let's come over just a little further. What does his belt even look like? There's like a thing in the middle. And then like two things on the sides. Doing drawings like kind of loose and fun like this is pretty great. It's very relaxing. It feels like I'm always reminded of like Blue's Clues, where I'm not exactly trying to be spot on with my rendition. I just need to like be able to tell what it is, you know? Like when Steve pulls out the handy dandy notebook and has to draw like a chair, he's drawing like the symbol of a chair, not like the chair that he's talking about. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of doing something similar here where what I'm drawing isn't necessarily like the most accurate version of this. It just has enough details to be like, oh, yeah, that is what that is. There's like a circle here. I say that and then add like 4 details that I'm definitely never going to remember to draw. I actually forgot his, the scar yesterday, and I'm surprised nobody called me on it. He has a scar in his eye. The character that Jesse's costume is based on. And I completely forgot to draw it yesterday. Nobody said anything, though. Had to Google. If you are ever looking for an anime to watch, it's pretty good. I recommend it. I'm just gonna bring this whole thing down here, I think. Does this costume have pockets? I don't think it does, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Actually, I'm certain it probably does, but I don't really care that much. I don't know. And then there's like this thing. Again, this is almost assuredly like way more detail than I'm ever going to remember to add on this belt, but hopefully it doesn't come up very frequently. And I'm actually going to get rid of these because I'm going to fill them in with white later. Tip number 2, I guess. And this could just be a personal preference thing, but so far it has worked for me. But when you're doing like quick little sort of like graphical, I guess for lack of a better term, representations of characters like this, putting the eyebrows in front of all of the hair details, if they have hair that comes over their face, can make the expressions a little more readable. Usually I do the reverse and put the eyebrows behind the hair, because that's how it would be in the world. But when you're working on like a quarter of a page or whatever, getting those like expressions in there in a legible way can be a little bit more important sometimes. So I like to do it that way. This hand is too small. This might be too big now. But I needed to move that thumb anyway. And that's a little better. It's alright. It's not the worst. His hands need to be beefy. I can be pretty inconsistent with his hand sizes sometimes. Actually, I'm pretty inconsistent with like most details about all of them, honestly. It's usually just like whatever happens to work best for the composition that day, or however I feel like drawing them, really. But as long as his hands aren't like too small for his arms, that's really all that matters. Absolutely gonna regret putting drawstrings on his shorts later. Drawstrings are one of those details where it's like not crazy difficult to do, but it's just like more effort to keep track of than if I didn't have them there at all. That's too far down. it is a problem for future me, unfortunately. I'm currently at the point where I am like struggling with this because oh, here's where we're gonna cheat, by the way, because not a lot is gonna change from one post to the other, so we're gonna use most of what we've done from that last page. Or that last panel, I should say. Oh, I forgot to draw his beard the last time, too. Oh well. What was I talking about? Something. Oh, right. I'm at a part of this whole process where I'm regretting the amount of ambition that I've decided to possess for this one particular project. I just kind of really have been wanting to do like a comic of some kind for a little while. And this felt like a decent excuse to do such a thing. Gonna bring this over here. But I have been like thinking about what I'm gonna do with the other fellas that haven't shown up yet. And because it's like a story now, I have to wait for them to appear, and I can't just draw them whenever I want. Otherwise the story doesn't make any sense. That's my current biggest problem. Whereas with last year, I could just draw whatever in whatever order I wanted, because there wasn't a ton of story. I'm not exactly intending it for it to last the entire month, but it will probably last for a good portion of the month, and that's mainly the point. If it does last the whole month, I would not be like mad about that. That would be kind of cool. But also I'm kind of making it up as I go. Like I have maybe 3 or 4 other like story beats kind of in my head at this point. But I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get there. Oops. Okay, so his head's basically gonna stay the same. It's just his eyes that are gonna move and his neck that's gonna move. And I guess his mouth too. But yeah, there's like a couple of little things about like how I could take it, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna do all of them yet. But there's a couple points that I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely want this to happen. How you know? Hello. Oh, his eyebrows are different too. He needs more sympathy in these eyebrows for this particular panel. boy, looking at this now, his eyes look weird. I think it's this little nose thing that's really messing me up. We are drawing the next little bit of the story that I've been working on the past couple days. This needs to come further this way, because his neck is going to be super long otherwise. What a friendly shape. It's true. What a friendly lad. Chair's so squeaky. Oh, that's what I wanted to do, is draw this before I get too far away from it. Yeah. So yesterday, when I colored these, I did a thing that I'm not gonna do today, which is I put all of the colors onto a single layer, which isn't terrible, but I'm gonna do something a little bit different for the text today. So because of that, the background needs to be separate from the foreground. Plus, doing it this way will let me change these colors a little later if I want to. In fact, this is probably not the color I'm going to use for the background at all, because a lot of Jesse's costume is this color. So I might go with like black or something. We'll cross that bridge when we get to the fill bucket, paint bucket tool thing. Whatever that thing's called in this program. Color fill? It's not that important. What if I just turn it down slightly? That might be okay. Actually, and in fact, I'm going to do the same thing for this side over here. This program has taught me to be much more like frugal with the amount of layers that I use. I could probably have done this on separate layers, but they're gonna be the same color. So if I wanted to change it later, like change the color later, it would just add additional steps. So if I can just make it all one layer now, that would A, save on the amount of layers that I can use later, and B, save steps if I decide to change my mind about the color. Because again, the background is just going to be separate from the foreground. So it doesn't really need to be its own separate thing, because it's going to be the same because of the way that I've cheated here. Also, if you're like doing comics, I'm just kind of using the word cheated as like a funny thing, because to me it kind of feels like cheating. But that's only because I'm basically drawing a whole page of a comic in like 2 hours. Which is like not very long at all as far as like comic pages go. So I'm taking some shortcuts here. But if I had like all day or whatever, I would probably try to vary these panels a little more. Tricks like this are mainly for like if you're just having like a subtle change between the two things that you want to make sure you show, or for like if it's like a story related purpose, right? Like if there's like a long pause or whatever and you had the same like panel essentially repeating itself, it would be more effective as like a long pause than if you just had like a bunch of ellipses in there, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna put this layer here because otherwise I will forget all about it. I think it's this color I used. No, it's this color. It's like very slightly different from my usual background color, but it's different enough. So like I said before, I'm just trying to be generally as frugal as possible with my layers here. If this was like a normal drawing, all of the colors on Jesse would be separate layers and all of the colors on Tank would be separate layers. But since I'm only using like 3 or 4 colors here, or at least trying to, I can just keep each color on its own layer and then fill in all the things of that color. That's my plan anyway. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not, and then I end up having to make like 3 or 4 additional layers on top to fix the mistakes of the things that I did on the layers below. But that's one of the good things about having like a very, very limited palette like this is when you get to the coloring stuff portion, it's a little bit faster. The problem, like the downside, is that you have to plan a little bit ahead of time about like your pose and stuff, or your composition, I guess I should say, to make sure that there aren't too many things of the same color like all next to each other, unless it's like a lighter color that can be easily distinguished by a line of some kind to sort of differentiate the fact that it's a separate thing. Like right now, all of this dark stuff, if this was all too bunched up in an awkward way, it wouldn't read especially well, which it very well still has the potential to do. I'm mostly just kind of hoping that there's enough of a difference between this gray and the black outline that you can still kind of tell what's happening. It has worked thus far, but it doesn't mean it'll always work. And if that does happen, then I would just have to change this portion of this layer so that it does work a little better. Let me turn off this other... Yeah, it's not bad. It could be worse, but it's alright. This color's next. I am gonna have to turn this sketch layer off for this one though. Maybe if this like little comic situation resolves itself before the end of the month, I will get to really draw these boys in their costumes with like color and everything. And like actually planning out their details and things. Mostly because I feel like it would be funny to draw Tank completely orange. That doesn't really come through very well here. Yeah, it's literally just body paint and barriers. Actually, I can fill in this whole thing because I will draw the other part separately. Yeah, I guess this can be this color. Why not? Just to show that it's slightly darker than the rest of his, his little strappy-doo thingies on his arms. And if you ever see his boots, they're a lighter color as well. I'm not sure if that'll ever come up though. Ah. I'm gonna give him the anime glasses here, just because I don't want to draw his eyes. Probably helps the expression a little, but it's mostly because I just don't want to draw the eyes. He is a teddy bear hero. It's true. So far, the hardest part about Jesse's costume is trying to get the hair in such a way that it feels like it's down the middle. Because Jesse has hair that I specifically draw to be like Mickey Mouse ears, where like no matter what angle you look at it from, it's always like one of two angles, right? There are some rules for how Mickey Mouse's ears are supposed to appear in media so that he's always legible as Mickey Mouse. The same is kind of true of Jesse and Tank's hair. Like, Tank always has these three things on the top and these two on the back, no matter like what angle his head is actually facing. And same with Jesse, he's always got this one little cowlick in the back. That, depending on what angle you're looking at it from, is actually more on the side, but that's not important. So I'm going to darken this background just a little bit. And we're going to do one more layer because this is easier to do this way. I bet. I'm still not consistent, especially with the boy's hair, to be totally honest. That's probably like the biggest thing that is keeping me from wanting to do like a comic, is that I would actually have to like determine some sort of visual consistency and like stick to it. I don't need that one. So I can group all of these. And we're gonna cheat again. Just trying to get it like kind of close, and then we'll change all the finer details later. Because there are parts of it. Oh, this is a trick I learned when I found out how to make patterns with this app. Is if you tap on the sides of your like bounding box, you can nudge the box in a direction. So like if I tap up top, I didn't just do it there, but if I did it again, I would be able to like move this up in tiny little increments. It's very helpful for stuff like this, specifically. I'm gonna fill in these spots because I just realized that I didn't do that before. I'm gonna bring this down just a little. Mainly because this and this didn't seem like they were the same height to me, but I guess that's not very important. The important thing is that it like fills in the appropriate amount of space. His hair looks different. Yeah. That's kind of how these boys are a lot of the time. And for the sake of not completely confusing myself, I'm going to just turn off those other layers and fix them as I go like this. Part of me wants to like get into Blender like seriously to figure out how I really want these boys to exist in a 3D space. For the sake of consistency. And also because, like, Blender is fun, it just takes so long to, like, learn for me. Because I haven't, the last time I used it was for, like, an animation project where the, like, rig and models and everything were already fairly established. I just had to animate them afterwards, really. But modeling is pretty fun. It's like sculpting, but it's not as messy. Actually, I guess it is sculpting, but like digitally, so... You know. Whatevs. But still. It's fun. So maybe one day, if I'm not like drawing every day, I'll be able to learn Blender and do some 3D models of the boys or something. Or if I get enough, like, money to just sort of throw at it, I can commission someone to do it. There's a person I follow on Twitter who's, like, very, very good at modeling this type of character shape, in my opinion. Also, hello, Silver. I am well. I hope you are also well. Yeah, Blender is like really powerful and cool. I am just not that familiar with it, so I don't ever use it. But there are a few animators that I follow who are like, oh yeah, you're supposed to use it for 3D stuff, but also it's very good at like 2D animation stuff with the grease pencil, so that has made me want to learn it even more. But one of the downsides of like being committed to posting and to drawing every day like I am is that I don't really have time to learn stuff like that and then also still have the energy after to want to draw a thing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually. So I have decided that I do have a finish line for when I'm going to be posting drawings every day. So if I can make it to that point, then I'll be happy. And it's not like I'm going to stop drawing forever. It's just that I'm going to like free up my ability to do other things, like maybe an actual comic or something. But the thing about comics is, unless I want them to be this simple with corners cut like this every single day, it's going to take more time to do. So if I was to do a comic, I would need to not be posting the drawings every day, because it would take me multiple days to work on them. Name drop a Blender artist. There's a couple who I can't like fully remember their names, honestly. Worthy Kids, I think. They do stuff all the time that you would never expect to be in Blender, but they had like a whole tutorial on their YouTube channel a while ago. I was like, oh yeah, here's how I make all my 2D animations in Blender. And it's like very good. I'm trying to think of that little series that they've had going for a little while. Whoops. They have had a series of like Big Top Burger, yeah. That's what it is. It's very good. I love it so much. But yeah, they do all their stuff in Blender, which I found out. And I think that's pretty cool. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I want this layer. And then there's a French animator whose name I unfortunately cannot remember, but they do a bunch of really cool stuff in Blender as well. I'm gonna have to Google this person now, because I cannot, it's like Didos. Yeah, I actually remembered that pretty closely. I just spelled it wrong in my brain. It's Didos. I'm gonna put it in chat. This person. Go look them up. Their stuff is very good. And then, unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the person who does the modeling stuff. I see them mostly do like furry stuff though, and they're always like excellent. I forgot to mute my phone. God, this chair sounds like it's gonna just disintegrate beneath me. Honestly, it's probably not that far off. I should like go to an office supply store or something. Get a new chair. Is that from this layer, or is that from the lines? That's from the lines. You would probably never see these, but I'm erasing them anyway. Yeah, the grease pencil's like very, very cool and good. That's too big. if someone reminds me, like at the end of the stream, I will find that person on. Oh no, I will find that person on Twitter and put their name in the chat. But right now, I'm worried that I'm not going to finish this in time, so I'm going to try and draw. Ice Jam, hello, welcome. I hope you are well. Hand drawn it, yeah. That's one of the really, really cool things about Blender is that since all of the objects are like in a 3D space, you can do stuff like move the camera around or whatever separately from like the animation itself. That's probably fine. That's close enough. Oops. Get rid of this. But yeah, doing stuff like camera moves, like separately from having to do your animation stuff, is like crazy good and delightful and wonderful. I'm sure there are other programs that let you do that, but Blender also has like a bunch of other things that are good for a 3D environment that can help you with like parallax and things like that, where you're sort of separating objects from one another in space. That's, I think, one of the more powerful functions of that set of tools. Okay, so this is panel number 2. This is panel number 1. Okay. Blender's everything at once. I mean, kind of. Superwave? I don't know if I know who that is. I may have seen them somewhere, but I can't say with any certainty. I'm breaking my usual rule of never start with the face. But here we are. Starting with the face. No, they're on Instagram. Alright, fine. I will Google this person. Is it 2 V's? Oh, I'm not familiar with this person. Some pretty neat stuff over here. And thank you, Ice Jam. I'm glad that you like them. They've been a real blast to draw. Oop. So one of the corners that I'm going to be cutting today is that I'm not going to draw the sailor symbol onto his heart here. I just did it the first time to let you see that it was Uranus that he was dressed as, because I couldn't show it with color. So I had to show it some other place. Even though I'm pretty sure she doesn't actually have none of them actually have a symbol on that heart, I think. At least not in any of the reference images I was looking at. So it's a more accurate heart this time. See you later, Silver. Thanks for hanging out. High-heeled pirate boots? Probably. He's got on, like, in my head, he has on, like, the, like the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman heels, where they're like kind of boots, but also still kind of heels. So he's like even more tall and menacing. But he could still like chase someone down if he needs to. Just because I think it's funnier. This panel actually is going to explain why he's here in the first place, and why he would need to chase someone down with his boots on. This is a bit of lore that, like, I feel like I never get to bring up, but has always been, like, extant in my head. So it's nice that I can finally, like, use it for the joke I intended for when I came up with it. Which is that Felix has, like, 8,000 jobs. So anytime the boys go somewhere, Felix is, like, he has to be working. But sometimes the place he is working is the place that they end up going, which is what has happened here. That's why he is at the door, waiting for them. It is not his party. He's just working at it. Have I drawn out character sheets? I have not drawn out character sheets. That's one of those things that, like, I keep wanting to do, but I feel like once I do it, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to actually commit to the decisions that I've made regarding their character designs. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I draw, like, Tank a little chubbier than other times, or Felix a little more muscly than other times, you know? Like, those sorts of things. So I feel like once I draw, like, a character sheet, actually, then I'll be, like, constantly comparing the drawing that I've made with those character sheets. And being like, is this on model or not? Which is the, like, part about animating that I'm the worst at, is staying on model for the characters. Things are just so easy when you don't have to be consistent about them, you know? It's not my fault. Yeah, it's not like a ton of pressure, but it's enough to be, like, the kind of thing that when you're, like, rushing and have like an hour to draw something that you also want to put in a ton of details for, it's like not the thing I'm concerned about. Which I don't know if that sounds like bad, but it's kind of true most of the time. Where it's like I'm usually just sort of concerned about the drawing itself being done and not so much that the character looks completely, totally accurate every time. There are a few like little details that are like close enough to being consistent that like you can tell which one is which, you know? But things like their silhouette and general body shape tend to vary a lot. That was too much. I'll bring this down a little. Yeah, Felix without the beard is like a completely different person. It's like upsetting. That star isn't that great, but it's fine. No, Felix would never take a job that requires him to shave his beard. Actually, he might, and the job might require him to, but he wouldn't. He would just kind of have it still. Depending on how funny that would be in the moment. The heart is fine. Or the star. What did I say? Okay, so the thing that we want consistent here is his head. And everything else is going to change. His head and his torso. But the hands and shoulders are going to be different, so I can get rid of all this. In situations like this kind of like quote-unquote cheat doesn't help a ton, but it does help a little. And when your goal is to save time, even a couple minutes can make a difference, you know? So the only thing that's probably going to stay the same here is his bow. Because his shoulders are going to go up, so it's going to be a little higher up on him. Same with this, actually. That's going to change too. So I may as well just get rid of this whole section in the middle here. The beard is too perfect, they'd let it slide. Not so much that they would let it slide, but it's that he's very intimidating. So they wouldn't, like, stop him. You know? That's Felix's energy most of the time. It's that he wouldn't hurt you most of the time. Like, most people, he wouldn't hurt you. But he could, and he's not gonna, like, make you think that he wouldn't. So even though he's a nice guy, he doesn't need you to know that.
That's not his concern. I did this before that, so... Changing line thicknesses like that might not have been the smartest idea at the time. It's still a little too heavy. Because the one I was drawing was a little too thin. Up. Same hero. My facial hair just grows too fast, so it is itchy all of the time when I shave it, and I hate that a lot. So if I'm at a job that requires me to shave it, it needs to be a good job. Squeakiest chair in the world. I feel like I'm much more bothered by it than you guys are. So I feel like I call it out a lot more than you guys would probably notice it, but I have to live with this chair, so it bothers me immensely. It was great for so long. But it may be time for it to go. The problem is that I don't really want to buy like a very expensive chair. But at the same time, I don't want to like replace the chair with a not very good chair just to have the same problem again in 6 months. You know? So just like before, the background is going to need to be a separate color from the foreground. So we're going to do one background just kind of below everything. understood what you meant here, but I appreciate the clarification. I think I'm going to do the same thing here that I did in the layers above. Actually, since this is all the same thing, maybe I'll just merge this layer with that layer. I think that's what I'm going to do instead. But yeah, this little copy pasting cheat thing that I was doing between these panels does sort of fix my inability to stay consistent. So it looks like I know how to keep things on model, but it's really because not a lot has changed between panels, these panels, you know? This layer. So I'm gonna come over here, merge that down, and then just turn this down a little. Something like that, I guess. I need it to be noticeably darker than this color, but still lighter than this color. Is the balancing act I had going on there. So I can turn that off. And we can come in here and fill in this stuff. What color did I make the heart thingy? Same color, okay. Had to make sure, you know? Should be a masseuse. Maybe that's one of his many jobs. You never know. It's whatever's funniest at the time, to be totally honest. That's what his job is. I think I made this that color too. Let me see. Yes, okay. Then was his skin tone, which was this color. CEO depends entirely on the company. President, if you mean like of the country, no. It's mostly like jobs that are within their town. Like whatever the funniest job is at any given time, depending on what the other characters are doing. But because they're like odd jobs, mostly it's not like the sort of thing that you would expect for like a job that requires some sort of investment, whether it be like a financial or like time-based investment into some sort of corporation or whatever. So like, hold on, what color is this? Okay, that one's fine. So like a CEO wouldn't be a thing for him because that would mean like investing time in some sort of company, right? But if it's like they got in trouble and for some reason needed to like bust out of some sort of company's like facility, maybe he's the janitor there at the time. You know, like that sort of thing. Where it's like maybe he's just delivering mail. You never know. He likes to keep people on their toes. No, I feel like Felix, from the moment that you enter his like massage parlor, would like split you in half. He like fights people in his free time. So I feel like he would very much cause you some form of harm. But again, it's just like whatever is funniest at the time, you know? Is this color? Yes. Okay. So just like before, I can grab these and pull these over here to be sort of close to what I'm doing. That's fine. Whoops. I may as well just do this now. This is panel 3. And this is panel 4. Oh man, I'm like slightly concerned that I'm gonna forget how I planned this interaction to go, honestly. Usually when I do stuff like this, like anytime I do those little mini comic type deals, I don't usually do them on stream. I think I've done it like one other time maybe. So what I usually am able to do is like replay the conversation in my head the entire time that I'm drawing, so I can really like figure out if this is exactly how I want this interaction to go. And I have not been able to do that while streaming because I'm focusing on talking to you guys and stuff. So I have to try and remind myself every now and again, like, okay, what did they say in this first one and what are they going to say in the next one? Because I didn't write any of this down, which is what a professional smart person would do, but I'm neither of those. So I am forgetting something from the last one, so I'm going to do that real quick. Oh wait, that's not on this layer, that's on this layer. I almost forgot about this thing. It's one of those like very subtle but also still kind of important details. That's fine. Just gonna go ahead and erase that whole thing. Oh, I forget the little thing on his tiara. What a silly sentence that was. Good night, hero. Thanks for stopping by. I hope your dessert is delicious. Oh, I forgot about this. That's what I mentioned. That's that thing that I just said a second ago. Yeah, I was gonna say a thing, and then I forgot. Oh yeah, this whole like copying things from one panel to the next thing is a cheat that I use when doing these. I have like 2 hours to make a comics, but I try to avoid them whenever possible because to me it makes for a less visually interesting comic. But it is a trick that is helpful for specific instances, or especially for like if your characters are doing a thing and the background, like the environment, doesn't change very much. Copying those elements over can save you a lot of time and be not as noticeable in the composition as a whole. If you're changing up the poses or the actions that the characters are doing. But also, that's a trick that I've seen folks use as a way of getting around the problem I have about like consistency with your characters. Is I've seen folks who use tricks like that for any of their like long form comics or whatever, where whenever they draw a character in a specific like pose or making a specific face, they will like duplicate those elements elsewhere and save them someplace like a PSD that has like all of the faces that this character makes, kind of. So if they ever need to use that expression again, they can just copy and paste from that other file to save a bit of time, so they don't have to start from scratch. Because really the one of the hardest things about doing art stuff is that you're constantly battling how much time you have to work on a thing. Like, you can want to have a super good idea for something or whatever, but if you don't have the time to execute it fully, it's not going to come out the way that you want. So if you can find some spots to save time, it's usually pretty helpful. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. Ah, I don't know how that happened. As long as everything is mostly covered up, that is fine. Can put all these things down here. That's not what I wanted. Where's this panel 4? Didn't really happen there, but I felt like I should do it anyway. Dialogue time is now. Now is the time for dialogue. So he's gonna say something like, and I think I had this at 70 for the other ones, although this might still be large. Do I want him to say more than this in this panel? I kind of planned for him to say more than this in this panel, but who knows? I guess I don't need this layer right now. No, why are you get get out of here. In like a traditional comic where all of the word bubbles are white, I would just kind of continue that white shape into this little divider here. But as a means of like clarity, I want to change the leading on this. I'm giving each character their own color for word bubbles so that it's more easy to identify who's talking. And I'm also trying to duplicate these word bubbles instead of starting from scratch, so that all of my settings are the same and I don't have to redo the settings every time, because it has a default font that it always jumps back to. EIR, weirdo. I think I'll put instead at the end. How do I want to phrase this? I want him to be like saying that this gig paid better than the one that he had before, so he didn't really question where the money was coming from. But I need to find that in a way that A, sounds like him, and B, fits in this space. This is the struggle that I constantly run into with writing stuff like this. I could say the pay was better and I got to pick my costume. Didn't ask too many. I'll say this paid better. I got to pick my costume, so I didn't ask too many questions. Maybe? Perhaps? Now that I'm thinking about it, this is probably too large. Anyway, let's try 50? That's too small. 60. Whoa, why is that a thing that happened? 60 is better. The problem I often run into, I need to increase the lettering just a little to make it a little more legible. The problem that I often run into with doing comics like this is when I'm reading as I'm putting it together, any size will look fine for me. Because I can zoom in or whatever. But it's very different when it's like you're seeing it on Instagram and have to try and decipher the text in this way. But now the thing is that I need to make sure that the text is consistent everywhere, or else some of it'll look weird. That's one thing that I really don't like about Procreate, that was the text options. It feels like it's constantly fighting against me to do stuff. Okay, so I can kind of put all these in a group for now. Because we want to do the balloons on this layer like this. I probably need some punctuation in this first bubble also, so maybe I'll do that. I probably should be using this tool instead of just trying to eyeball it.
I don't think I saved the color for his word bubbles, so I'm gonna go grab it from yesterday. Oh, that reminds me, I need to... I almost forgot about his eye again. So I'm gonna do that in a second. Alright, I'm gonna do this now before I forget. Just gonna keep it real simple. Another comics trick that I learned from various people online is when you're doing word bubbles, you always want to make sure the tail kind of points at the mouth of the person who's speaking, otherwise it looks a little strange. No. There we go. So next is the little effects layer. There's an H there first. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna try this with text instead and see how it works.
Where is that other? There we go. I forgot about the thing on his little thingy. You know, that thing. On this thing. I'm certain that there are appropriate words for both of those, but I don't know what they are. This is not that color. This needs to be this color. The stripe on the thing. What is that called? Just like a mantle? Like a half cape? I'm unsure. And this being the only not fully appropriately geometrically shaped bubble is going to bother me, so I'm going to redo it. I want these two little side dots to be sort of in the middle of the text, basically. That's fine. Too big. Too small. That's fine. A sailor color. By the power of the moon. Or something. Okay, so last thing is it still feels too big. It always takes me a second to remember how to spell my name when I do it backwards like this. But the reason I do it backwards like this is because I want to make sure that it lines up here, and this side isn't going to matter as much. So if I start over here and then go that way, I'll either have to move this, which is an extra step I don't want to do, or I'll end up with that problem of like that John Mulaney joke where you try to write happy birthday on a card and you start with like a real big letter, and then as you go you have to shrink your letters and it looks kind of goofy. If you're wondering why sometimes I sign my name backwards like this, that is the reason. But yeah, so that's about it for this page, I guess. Can put all these together. I agree. He's very funny. Apparently he is like dating Olivia Munn now or something, which was like very surprising to me. And he went to like rehab for an amount of time, which was also surprising to me. But I guess he's having a kid now, so that's cool. Good for him. But yeah, so that's... I didn't even realize I had moved that entire time. It's probably been crooked. I hope that hasn't been bothersome for you all. Oh well. But yeah, so that's about it for this thing. Thanks to the power of cutting corners, we have managed to put together a page in an amount of time that wasn't a whole day. I promised I was gonna look up this person on Twitter if I had the time, and I do. So I gotta find that person who is good at modeling things in 3D. I believe they use Blender, but I could be wrong. Maybe they don't. They haven't posted in a minute, so it's gonna take me a second to find. So many tweets about Facebook and Instagram today going down. That's been super wild and also super interesting. Oh, here we go. Here's that person. This is their name on Twitter. That person. They're very good at modeling stuff in whatever program it is they use. They might not be using Blender. It might be some other, it's maybe like Maya or something. I don't know. I'm not a very, very well versed in the realm of 3D animation and such, so maybe I'm wrong. But, yeah. Stanley had some tricks. I mean, I guess the difference between a lot of like indie artists people and professional comics people is the process can be much more different for people in the professional world versus people on their own, because of the tight deadlines that they have. A lot of times, at least in my understanding of it, parts of the process are broken up. So there's like a person who writes, a person who does just the line stuff, a person who does just the sketch stuff, a person who does just the color stuff, and then a person who does just the like letters stuff. So because of all that, they can get a large amount of things cranked out very quickly, which is kind of cool. But then also I've seen, from like a manga perspective, how much more intense that also is, but they generally don't have that color step, so that's where they can save some time, but still, the turnaround there is like redonkulous. I once read a manga about making manga, and I can't remember the name of it, but after reading it, I was like, oh, I have such an immense appreciation for this now, because of the amount of like stress that it must give to a person. It's like a lot. So when it's like an indie person who's like kind of just starting or still kind of working on their own, that's why you can see those like longer those longer turnaround times is because they don't have that additional staff to support them to get out things very quickly, you know. So, the next time you see someone online complaining about a comic taking forever, just know that comics take forever. Unless you have a team of people or are probably inflicting harm to yourself for such a ridiculously fast turnaround. So always remember to be patient out there with the things that the media you consume, because it takes a lot of effort to make a lot of the time. Even this thing where I was actively trying to put in as little effort as possible took a surprising amount of time. And I had been thinking about the dialogue like all day, so it's fine. But that's enough of me complaining. I guess I will call it here for this one. Maybe I will be back on Wednesday. That is my plan. But then again, that is always my plan, and Wednesday is the day that I sometimes miss. So, be sure to check out Twitter, and if Instagram doesn't die between now and then, you can find me there as well. And I will usually post when I'm gonna be streaming. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm gonna end it for now, y'all. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I hope everybody has, like, just the best time. I hope something amazing happens for you, you know? So go out there and do something nice for somebody. Make it your goal this week. Do something good. Make the world a more positive place, you know? If for no other reward than that, to just be a good force in the world. So, with that in mind, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out. Bye-bye.